Tonight, on A Week in League, we'll be talking about the LEC Spring Split Kickoff, the LCK playoff teams, the EG Danny investigation, Yuumi changes, and so much more right after the intro. Welcome to A Week in League, where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. I'm your host Slomar, and let's just get right into the news. As usual, timestamps and links will be in the description, and while you're down there, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Thanks. The playoff race in the LPL is getting harder and harder each passing week. With Week 8 in the books, EDG, LNG, and JDG have locked in playoff spots. Earlier this year, LNG was definitely underperforming a little, even in their wins. EDG, on the other hand, has had a very similar story. Now both teams are at the top of the standings, ready for playoffs. The middle of the standings is just a big clump of teams trying to make it. TES and IG have been underperforming a little bit in the last few weeks. But who knows, maybe they can turn it back on in the last 2 weeks of the LPL and make a deep playoffs run. Anyways, here are the best players from Week 8 in the LPL. As you can see, EDG has got 2 players on the list. EDG's jungler JJ also manages to grab the best player of Week 8. And LGD's top laner Jojopyun claimed the best rookie of Week 8 award. And you know what time it is? Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's the JDG versus LNG series. LNG's Scout put on a great performance, however, Ruler just popped off. The series is most certainly worth a watch, especially if you want to watch Ruler carry. With only 2 weeks left in the LPL, the playoff race is closer than ever. Make sure you tune in next week for our continued coverage. So in the LPL, we had a very close and tight race for playoffs with only 3 slots locked in. In the LCK, however, all 6 teams have been locked in for playoffs. The bottom 4 teams in the LCK are either really bad or the top is really good, but either way, that's not really good for competition or the viewer experience. Personally, I'm hoping things can get a little more competitive next split in the LCK. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the LCK standings this week. T1, D+, Gen G, KT, HLE, and LSB have qualified for playoffs. The other 4 teams are out. And you know what time it is? Time for Game of the Week! And this week, it's T1 versus HLE. Honestly, I was this close to not including a Game of the Week for the LCK this week, since most of the games were kind of boring. There's only 1 more week of the regular season in the LCK Spring Split. So maybe next week we'll take the chance to talk about our all-pro picks for the LCK. The LEC Spring Split just kicked off and the opening weekend was super hype. The LEC broadcast has had their own polished look and flavor for quite some time now, and it's nice to see them continue to push that forward with more skits and an overall amazing production quality. Anyways, let's talk about some games. Vitality and SK, believe it or not, are on top of the league. Both teams managed to go 3-0 in the opening weekend. And Fnatic is still winless, so yeah, that hasn't changed. Vitality is looking real good this split, especially after the addition of Upset. Personally, I can't wait to see what this team can accomplish this year. Fingers crossed they make it to playoffs though. Just a reminder that the LEC splits are only 3 weeks long, so there are only 2 more weeks to go. Let's see if Fnatic can do anything this split or if they're gonna miss out on the group stage again. Anyways, time for Game of the Week! This week, it's a little bit of a meme, but it's the 2 worst teams in the league going head to head, Fnatic versus XL. Yeah, most of the games in the first week of the LEC were quick, one-sided games, so this is what you're getting. It's not my fault. Before we move on to the next segment, I'll leave you with this clip.
What's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Vidkone!
Where do I even start? Week 7 in the LCS has been confusing to say the least. I mean, it is clear that teams like Cloud9, FlyQuest, and EG are just a cut above the rest of the league. But man, the rest of the league sure knows how to party. The clump in the middle of the standings just keeps getting more and more confusing. With the recent resurgence from teams like 100 Thieves and TSM, things are definitely gonna get messy next week, so make sure you tune in for that. Fingers crossed we get some tiebreakers this week. Before we get into playoffs, I have a hot take that I shared on Hotline League earlier this week with Travis and Mark. Roll the clip.
Omar, what do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about how FlyQuest is not going to make it to the finals this year, or the split, I guess.
What do you think? Let me know in the comments below if FlyQuest will make the finals this year. Anyways, Cloud9's mid laner, MNS, is the player of the week for week 8. And to think Cloud9 started the split with this other mid laner, Diplex, and have now switched to MNS and are having this much success? Wow. Cloud9 continues to have one of the best coaching staffs in the LCS. The team is looking much better than when they had Diplex in. Good job. Anyways, time for Game of the Week. And this week, it's TL versus FlyQuest. We kind of talked about this last week, but Papa Smithy was on the LCS casting a game, and this was it. The game was kind of meh, but I was so down for some good old Papa Smithy color commentary. If just like me, you also miss Papa Smithy casting, this is the game for you. But in all seriousness though, we have a super week in the LCS, so make sure you tune in next week for our weekly coverage. Welcome to In Other News, a segment where we discuss news that may or may not be related to LOL Esports. This week's headline is, Riot confirms investigation into EG's treatment of LOL star Danny. Honestly, I'm not sure if there's much to add here, as there's not really a lot of new information other than the fact that Riot is now investigating them. Until we get more information about this, here are my final thoughts. EG sucks and no one's being held accountable, and that sucks. I'm hoping that this investigation can shed some light on this and actually do something about it, and doesn't turn out to be similar to the TSM Reginald slap on the wrist from last year. Make sure you stay subscribed to our channel, because as soon as we get more information, we're gonna cover it. In other news, Yuumi's ban rate goes up 900% in high MMR after LOL patch 13.5 rework. The player base is deeming the rework as a complete failure. Personally, I'm not sure if this is the worst thing ever, if it really breaks the game that much, but let's see if the new Yuumi is gonna be present in pro play. Like, I can tolerate some Yuumi in my solo queue, but 100% in pro play? Nah. In other news, Greg Street steps down as executive producer for the LOL MMO. Nickrit on YouTube has put out a 12-minute video going into a lot more details about the subject. But to summarize, Greg said that he's leaving for personal reasons and that the game is in good hands. Please keep in mind that we still don't have any timelines or much information about this MMO at all, so yeah. In other news, we've talked about the Riot Forge Sylas game, and this week we have some gameplay footage, and it looks awesome. Roll the clip. Yeah, I can't wait to play that one too. In other news, last week we talked about Immortals swapping out their mid laner. Well, Balulu, Immortals' new mid laner, pulled out Velkoz for the first time in the LCS in a long time. Seeing Velkoz in pro play was kind of cool, but too bad it wasn't that successful. In other LCS news, EG's mid laner, Jojopyun, was sick this last week and sat out one game. Jojopyun played the first game of the week, and on the second game, Ryoma has subbed in. I'm hoping Jojopyun can have a speedy recovery and that he's fully ready for this week's Super Week. Our last story for the night is about voice chat in League of Legends. There was yet another Reddit post that got some traction this last week about adding voice comms in League of Legends. And this time, one of the Riot developers officially responded, basically confirming that there will never be voice chat for League of Legends. The end. And that's the end of our show for this week. Since the last episode, we've gained quite a bit of new subscribers, so thank you so much. Oh, and before I forget, shouts out to Joshua Pearson. Thanks for all the love and the suggestion. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing. Have a good night, and good luck in solo queue. Woo!